I was not a model student myself, unfortunately. When I came to college, I did struggle and I had those challenges. But I also found those people that were instrumental in helping to keep me engaged with my higher education journey.
I'm in it for the transformation that can take place, because when change happens, a ripple effect occurs, and it impacts families, communities, and future generations.
We want to see students come to our college and get the credential that they want and need to have to change their lives and their families' lives and their own trajectory.
For many, education's the bridge from, say, like their current state to their aspirational state. And I like to know that I had a hand in helping someone take a step towards, that future self.
Having AI at our disposal is all about meeting students where they are.
AI isn't about replacing the human side, but instead amplifying it.
It's able to take a lot of the redundancy out of the day-to-day of the admissions counselor work that a lot of time was ultimately dreaded.
That helps our team concentrate on complex problems when students call rather than answering simple questions.
I do what I do to open the doors of opportunities that may never have existed before, because those opportunities ultimately transform lives.
Visit element451.com and discover how a digital workforce can help empower your team to focus on what really matters.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to High School to Higher Ed, a father-daughter perspective, a special Pulse Check miniseries brought to you by Enrollify. I'm Kevin Cavanagh, an enrollment management professional for nearly 30 years.
And I'm Emma Cavanagh, his daughter, a 10th grader in the middle of high school. This series is about seeing the college admissions process through a different perspective, mine. We'll explore how young people are perceiving college and the messages we're getting from counselors, family, and colleges themselves. By stepping into these early conversations, we hope to offer some real insights for enrollment managers and marketers. Things you can't find in the data, but in real, everyday moments. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the second episode of this season of our podcast with Enrollify. I'm Emma, and I'm with my dad and personal college consultant.
Hello, Emma. Back for episode number 2.
Yes.
We're on a roll, and I'm pretty excited about this particular
This is
episode.
very interesting.
I think we get into something that you and I really, really looked at from a different perspective here, and that is the idea that you and I attended a few virtual information sessions.
We did.
From a number of colleges, some of which you have had some general early interest in, others who you had never really heard of before. For our listeners, because we want to give you fair insights, but because Emma might still be applying to some of these schools, we don't want her to be overly critical of some of the schools that she might be applying to. Why don't you tell us a little bit, without naming names, of the type of schools that we attended the virtual information session with?
So we did 4 information sessions with schools that are well-known and nationally ranked. And it was quite interesting. We got some information that I hadn't known earlier, and I got exposed to some schools that I previously hadn't known before or known a lot about before.
You took notes as we were in this, and I took notes while we were in this. And I think just afterwards, before we did any recording, we didn't want to ruin the episode by talking about it too much. But I think you and I caught some things similarly. But I think, again, we looked at this through a different set of lens. I was critiquing some of the presentations as from the perspective of like a VP of enrollment, as if these people were my staff members and how I think they could have done things differently. You looked at things from the perspective of, are these people impressing me, and are these people exposing me to their school in a way that makes me feel good about the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So why don't we jump in and start with your reactions to these presentations. Overall, do you think that there was a school of the 4 that you participated in that engaged you in a way that the others didn't? If so, how so? What kind of vibe did you get from that school?
So we did this over like a couple days, so it was a very short period of time. So all of the terms were starting to get repetitive. And I think that the first school that we went to the session for was more interesting than the last school, just because I was hearing the information for the first time, and a lot of the information for the schools were very similar. So by the time I got to the last school, it felt like I was listening to the same thing over and over again. And so the one of the first schools, or I believe it was the first school, was the one that interested me the most. And it was also because not necessarily with the presentation skills. The presentation was interesting, but it was some of the things that they talked about the school as well that made me more interested.
Explain that. Was it like, the rock climbing wall, or was it the, food in the cafeteria, or was it, the academic program? Like what was it that you learned about the school that you found to be engaging?
Yeah, they talked a lot about their like academics and their curriculum, and it really interested me because they talked about a specific type of curriculum that I'd never heard of before, and I thought it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. So you were not really caught up on, I don't want to call it frivolous stuff, because you've got to live on these campuses, assuming you're going to be living on campus. So it's not fair to call it frivolous, but you even as a sophomore, you zeroed in on academic things and academic terms, right?
It was more just what stood out to me the most, because they're going to say that their meal plans are great and they have so many options. Like every school is going to say that, but they provided kind of different information than some of the other schools because they have a different aspect in their academic curriculum.
Right.
So I don't know. I just thought that stood out the most in their presentation.
And in particular, this is like a school that allows you basically to design your own major. And you thought that was really, you didn't know you could do that prior to so that really, the flexibility of being able to explore and combine things really was attracted to you.
Yes.
Okay. Of the 4 presentations that you participated in, what would you say was the biggest turnoff?
So as I mentioned before, we did this in like a pretty short period of time with all of these different virtual information sessions. The same word came up so many times. So keep in mind that all of these schools are very exclusive, high-ranking schools that we went on the virtual information sessions for. And all I heard the entire time was that their admissions process is holistic.
Right.
And all of them said, or most of them said, that the extracurriculars, there's not certain ones that are more valued than others, but they have to have some way to differentiate between all of the 4.0 GPA kids that are applying to their schools. And there's so many of them, and their extracurriculars matter. So it's very fake when they say that. And the holistic application process kind of just sounds very fake. And like, what does that even mean? What does holistic admissions process mean? Like, I know what they want it to mean. They want it to mean that it's well-rounded, but like,
yeah, it's a bit of a smokescreen because I think some of these people that even give the presentation don't always know what exactly their institutions are looking for. So I think generally colleges are looking to do the holistic review of standardized tests, GPA, course selection, course rigor, overall GPA, weighted, unweighted, extracurriculars, community service, essay, internships, research, all the stuff that they do, and they mix it all together. But definitely, I think each of these schools prioritize certain things over others. But you're right. There was, to your earlier point, by the end of the 4th presentation, it was almost as if, we talk in marketing about differentiation. It was almost like they kind of went out of their way to not similar. Differentiate. They're very similar to each other. Like you could just change the branding, and it could be, you could go from one school to the next, other than maybe the location of the school.
Yeah, that was
the name of the school.
Biggest, I think, turn off for this kind of thing.
Okay.
They all want to advertise the same thing. They want to advertise the meal plan, the amount of students that go there, scholarships that they give, and their location and their holistic approach to applications. That's all I heard.
Yeah. So holistic became white noise. So
Yeah.
Got it. So now let me ask you this, because this is really important from sort of a communications and marketing and recruitment perspective. Did any of these presentations, the virtual kind, make you feel more connected to a campus or a school? Or was this just seemingly a half-hour commercial for the school? I mean, did you gain anything that drew you toward some of these schools a little bit more?
The school that I was specifically most interested in of these 4 schools that we watched the presentations for was one of the most disappointing with their presentations. So I didn't really think I felt closer with any of the schools, but I did feel that tool that we mentioned earlier with the curriculum and making your own major, that definitely made me more interested in the school and made me want to kind of consider it more.
So it's fair to say that there's been like 1 or 2 schools that have risen to the top early on, like as early as freshman year of high school. And so this is your first formal interaction with one of those schools. And it was, I mean, I don't want to say it was weak, but I wasn't impressed and you weren't impressed. And we'll come back to, some kind of like final thoughts later on, but I was disappointed for you because I was kind of hoping that the school that you liked the best, did really well because it would continue driving your interest. But this is also why we do these things, so that you just don't go off applying to colleges in 2 years' time and just do it in a vacuum because you like the name of the school or the branding of the school or otherwise, that you've actually had some exposure to it. And virtual information sessions is just one way to do that, but they got a bit of a demerit, that school. So we'll have to work on them to bring them back.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you learned anything on those information sessions that you couldn't otherwise learn on your own by visiting the college's website or anything like that?
I didn't learn anything that I couldn't have looked up, but it exposed me to things that I probably wouldn't have looked up.
Like what?
Like I would never look up the curriculum format at a university because I would just have assumed that it's all the same, that it's just, oh, this is your major and these are the classes that you have to take. But could I have looked that up and found out? Yes, but would I have because I would have known about it? No.
Great. So now now you're interested in that from that one school, and now perhaps to be asking questions about the curriculum.
Yeah, it's like it gave me the questions to ask or to look up.
That's great. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this.
I know you were taking notes as well. So from a professional standpoint, how did these compare to a professional industry presentation?
I mean, I think overall, these were fine, good presentations. As an enrollment person, I feel as if I represent my institution. And there's a lot of hardworking faculty members and staff and professionals. And I should project, and my team should project, a certain level of professionalism by way of attire, which also, in my mind, reflects a certain respect for the audience. And I know this is virtual, and I know it's 2025, and the standards of formal wear are a little different. But I was disappointed in the attire of all 4 of our presenters. Now, I think, well, yeah, I generally I didn't think it projected. I saw some sweatshirts. I didn't see any ties or collared shirts on the gentlemen that presented, and that bothered me.
I think that is interesting. I didn't notice that because I think I was more involved in the information. But during COVID, my father wore professional attire every day to sit in his home office on Zoom. Meanwhile, I was wearing sweatpants, comfortable clothing, but he insisted every day that he had to wear at least like khaki pants and a nice shirt.
Maybe I'm in the minority because even your mother was like, how are you dressing up every day to just sit on Zoom? And I get it. And I do, for me with staff, I get that, quarter zip, branded gear for your university is more acceptable, gear these days in some of these settings. I just think a professional meeting in which you're marketing to families that you would like for them to sign up, register for an event, and show up one evening, for an information session with one of their staff members. I just like to see that they took it a little bit more seriously than each of them did.
Also, these slideshows didn't necessarily seem professional. So I feel like if they wore attire and kind of knew a little bit more about what they were talking about, it would have been more professional seeming.
Yep.
Here's a quick word from our sponsor. Southeast Missouri State University needed to launch more targeted campaigns faster, yet they were bogged down by manual campaign builds, slow approvals, and vendor overload. With Element 451, they eliminated 5 vendor tools and gained marketing superpowers in one platform. They saw a 13% increase in applications, processed applications within 2 days, and achieved 33 to 35% email open rates. The impact: personalized, automated campaigns running at scale without the drag. Ready to turn your next campaign around in hours, not weeks? Try an agent today at element451.com/agents.
Yeah, so that was going to be another thing that I will say. One school really, really impressed me with the presentation itself, and that was I thought they did a really nice job of using video during the virtual information session, and then the staff member that was presenting just really did a voiceover during what would really be like drone footage of the physical campus, which showed some skyline and gave a sense of how far away they are from the city. But you saw students walking around and faculty members walking around on the quad. It showed, or the campus, it showed the buildings, the landscaping, the architecture. I think it really gave a nice, so you were hearing information about the application process and how many students they had and where their students were from and their curriculum and things of that nature. But you're also visually, taking in information. And anybody that works in the admissions and the marketing space knows that families eat with their eyes. And it's very difficult to really do the eating with the eyes thing when you're on a Zoom. But I thought that was a really nicely done, the utilization of video. And the other 3 presentations that we participated in all used standard PowerPoint slides. And those were barely adequate. Again, I don't like people being overwhelmed with slides and contents. I think high level bullets and a conversational style is a good way to go. But some of these presentations had way too many slides, and the presenter was banging through all of these slides, and then others were just sort of 2 slides, but there wasn't enough there. It was really kind of, and they weren't really terribly like well done or populated. The other thing that caught my eye is that one person, and I don't mean to be Goldilocks here, like, nobody's perfect, but one person had, a good amount of slides, like just the right amount. I'd say like 5 or 6 slides, but the slides had content and data on them. Of like rankings and application numbers and student population numbers. But then what they were saying was a completely different set of numbers about a different topic. So sort of the talking points of the presenter didn't match what was on the screen. And I kind of felt that my head was blowing up a little bit because I'm trying to read what's on the slide because that's what they put in front of me. But the slides, one topic, and the discussion of the presenter was a completely different topic that had its own numbers and information. And I found myself getting really lost. And maybe that's because I need things really simple in front of me. But I don't know how you felt about that, but that just really struck me as being confusing.
I don't think I noticed that, but I probably was not. I was probably focused on, since I was taking notes, I was focused on what was on the slides themselves. So I probably didn't even absorb the information from what the person was saying if it didn't match up with the presentation, because I think it's easier for me to focus on the information that's on the slideshow. So if it wasn't on the slideshow, listening to a person and trying to write down notes at the same time is a little bit difficult.
Yeah. And I'll say one other thing that, in terms of some of the content on the presentations, and I'll juxtapose these two. Number one of the presenters did a lot of name dropping of faculty and like some really interesting accomplishments of specific faculty members, like Professor so-and-so was nominated for a Nobel Prize in this, and Dr. So-and-so did the research on this that was published and mentioned in Time Magazine. Like, was giving these real accolades of the faculty members. Whereas another school, and I'll just I'll call this out. Maybe people will figure out what school this happens to be, but they gave a data point on the ratio of squirrels to students.
I was about to ask you. I was actually going to ask you what a squirrel was.
What a squirrel was?
What's a squirrel?
A squirrel's a squirrel. The things that climb in trees and collect nuts. Oh, Emma.
I thought it meant something else.
No.
Because when I asked you what a squirrel was, you said write it down.
I meant the point. I thought you realized that they were talking about the rodents that run up trees with the big furry tails. When I said to write it down, I said write it down because we'll talk about it on the podcast. It's not a provost or a bursar. Emma can't. I think this episode's coming to a crashing halt. Emma can't catch her breath. No, a squirrel's a squirrel. So what my point there, Emma,
I
is
thought that meant something.
No, it meant that they would have lots of squirrels on their campus. I like that because as a preliminary virtual information session, as students are just learning about the school, make it fun. Who cares?
I disagree.
To each their own. So it's the hard part of setting a right tone on these things. I don't need to know how many Nobel Peace Prize or Nobel, nominees they've had. I want to know if my student is going to be taken care of and if my student's going to have a good experience at the school. I'm sure not too many of those faculty members are teaching undergraduate first year classes. You'll get to that in graduate school. So I like the fact that they made it fun and gave fast facts about their institution and talked about something lighthearted about the number of squirrels on their campus. And now you're totally getting denied by all of these schools because they're like, this girl doesn't even know what a squirrel is.
I thought it was like a lingo.
Nope, now it is.
Now that I know what a squirrel is, I think it's just really random. Given that these information sessions are only so long, I'd rather have more substantive information, even if it's not specific professors. I don't necessarily need that information to be filled with the ratio of squirrels to students.
I thought it was a fun thing. And I think you and I will now remember the school with squirrels better than any other school. And that's part of the takeaway of these presentations is to be memorable when everybody else is using the same format and the same lingo and everybody's talking about holistic admissions. The one school that we remember the most is the school that talked about the squirrels. And I think that that's an important, takeaway, just in my mind. But we should keep moving on here. So why don't we talk about sort of the best and the worst? You had a specific ranking. I asked you ahead of time. You ranked these 4 schools for me. before we went on these different information sessions. And I did that intentionally because then I wanted to be able to ask you afterwards, had your opinion of these schools by way of how you ranked them in your mind changed after having gone to these virtual information sessions? So I'll ask you now, did it?
Yes.
Okay. How so?
The number one school that I had that's been one that I've wanted to go to for a pretty long time dropped.
To where?
Second or third.
Oh, that's not what you told me the other night.
Did I say fourth?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And the one of the schools that I'd never even thought about.
I don't even know if you ever heard of it before, to be fair. But maybe you heard it, but when
I've heard of it before.
Yeah,
I didn't know where it was.
You had no idea where it was. I think you asked me if it was in North Carolina, and I said no, it's in New England. That's why we do these things.
That became my number one because I think I like the information the best, and it was also about the school itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that was the best presentation overall. It was clean, crisp, concise. It had good pacing. It had good. That's the one that had a lot of video with it, and I think they just did a very good job of presenting the key facts and getting, especially with the video, a bit of a emotional, if you will, connection with the campus. It's very hard to do during Zoom. So I'd say they did a really, really nice job. Okay. Anything else from your end?
Yes.
What?
We have to mention one of the representatives from one of the schools is on the East Coast. This is a school on the East Coast. Had a background with the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, which I know that's a very popular Zoom background, but choose something from the major city that they were in.
Yeah, it's lazy. It's careless. I mean, I have a whole bunch of words that I can use with it, but yeah, I was really surprised that somebody came on, especially at a high-level competitive institution.
Yeah.
You're not Stanford, and Stanford is not far from San Francisco. So why are you using another city's iconic infrastructure that everybody knows?
It also doesn't look good because some of the green screens on Zoom kind of make you look weird and they cut off your ears or whatever.
Well, I mean, and that's going to be the case with a lot of them, but at the very least,
have it match your.
Listen, I don't know that everybody that gave presentations to us had school branded backgrounds. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. I mean, it's got to be saved on your computer already anyway. All you have to do is toggle it to have your school branding on there, or you just use a blurred background or otherwise. But to use a stock backgrounds that and if it's a stock background that has some of those like green blades of grass or something, and it's equally lazy, but it's not as impactful. But for a minute there, if I had tuned out for a second and then tuned back in, I would have thought this person is representing a school on the West Coast. When you got the Golden Gate Bridge in the background, it takes away from what you're trying to pitch. When this other school that we're talking about was a school in a city, and being in the city is a key piece of their identity. And I was like, Golden Gate Bridge, you're lazy, you're not dressed well, your presentation's kind of boring, and you talked way too much about holistic admissions. They brought nothing to the table. I didn't walk away with anything new. You didn't walk away with anything new, right?
Come on, step it up. Change your backgrounds.
Change your background. Get a little hey, get a design in the background. Get a nice clean room. It doesn't have to be a digital one, but don't be so lazy to say, I don't care enough about these people to dress well. I don't care about these people enough to have a better presentation. And I don't care enough to even put on a Zoom filter that shows I care. I really don't care. I'm an elite institution, and all of you people are going to apply to my school if I'm wearing a tank top and whatever. So very disappointing.
Strong opinions.
Yeah, that's how's that for a hot take?
Hot take.
Yeah, tank tops for information sessions. Okay, well, I think
that took a turn.
Yeah, I think that took a turn that suggests maybe we should wrap up this episode, Emma.
That was such a random tangent.
Yeah, well, it's late, and you got me all fired up.
About the squirrels.
Yep. Wrapping up this episode, we really appreciate everybody listening to more and more of our hijinks, especially as we get further and further into this. It seems like our hijinks are becoming more and more slapstick. So this is a lot of fun. But thank you again, Emma, for being a great co-host.
Thank you for being a great co-host.
Oh, you got it. Anything else from you?
Well, make sure to tune into our next episode. We will be talking about college fairs in person and my experience and your impressions.
I genuinely can't wait.
Yes,
that
I'm
was
very
like
excited.
first day on the job back in the 90s. It was you go to a college fair, and like that was what this was all about, was going to college fairs. So now I'm going to be a dad at a college fair with a teenager, and it's going to feel so surreal for me, and it's going to be really interesting to see it through your eyes and for me to be on that other side of the table for the first time. So
yes,
it should be a lot of fun. So thanks again, everybody, for listening. I think it's time, Emma, for you and I to make like a tree and get out of here.
Let's make like a tree and leave, you idiot.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.